seat on a local school board means applications to fill the position will soon be open.
Marlo Lundak has the details on what led to the board member's decision to step down this month.
For the next month, the Papillion-La Vista School Board will be operating without one of their 6 elected members.
These jobs are not easy jobs. These jobs are very difficult jobs. These jobs require extensive amount of preparation, time spent in subcommittee meetings, at school board meetings, and at school activities, the list goes on.
Last week, Brittany Holtmeyer, who was elected in November and took office in January, submitted her resignation effective immediately. Holtmeyer was outspoken and in favor of banning books in PLCS libraries and had opinions that many in the district deemed controversial. She said it was harassment that led her to make the decision. Her resignation reads, "I've been attacked verbally and in writing. I've had misinformation spread about me on social media and public comment. My car has been vandalized twice during board meetings, and I've had to deal with a stalker." She went on to say she believes the harassment played a part in her miscarriage. Monday night, the PLCS board thanked her for her service and unanimously approved her resignation, which kicks off the next step in the process, finding her replacement. The district says last time a board member stepped down midterm, they received dozens of applications.
In 2017, we had a huge outcry. We had about 38 applications that were completed, and I think another 6 or 7 that had started the process and not completed it.
District leaders say the role is sacred, and filling it quickly is not only policy, but it's vital.
They set the vision and the direction for the entire school district, for all of our students, all of our staff, and our community. They are responsible for hiring and firing the superintendent and setting performance goals for him. So really, it's the overall direction that the school district goes is really set by the Board of Education.
We will move quickly, we will move strategically, we will move deliberately to fill this position.